Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the bluShift monthly Zoom Q&A. It's March 15, 2022, and we have some very exciting updates to go into today and to go into greater depth than perhaps we have before. Today, I'm joined by our media consultant, Todd McKee, and bluShift founder and CEO, Sascha Deri. Sascha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Plus, it's getting warmer in here in Maine, so what can we complain about?
Yes, it is very exciting. It is legitimately exciting to wake up. It's bright outside. It's terrific.
About freezing.
Yeah. I got very confused though by in the newspaper, the star charts, they advance by about 30 degrees every month, right? Because 1/12 of 360. So they only went about 10 degrees this month. And I was like, what, did we discover time travel here? What's going on? And it was daylight savings.
Oh, throws you off.
Threw me off.
So folks from Morris Island here in Maine and Florida, hello, shout out to folks out there. Welcome.
All right, well, let's just dive right into it. So the biggest thing, probably this is, in and of itself is not news. We tested our full-scale MAREVL engine for the first time on March 1st, so just over 2 weeks ago. And this went really well. Sascha is going to give us some of the technical details in just a moment. But Todd, if you could roll that clip.
Okay. Well, sorry, we have some technical difficulties on that one. Let me get back to you on that. So,
okay.
Sorry
in the
about that.
meantime,
while he's rolling it, I'll go ahead and share some of the stats. So
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you have it all ready to go?
No, I'll let you know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that was hopefully most of you got to see. That was an incredible experience for everybody on the team. This is our third time's a charm, and I've got to tell you, engine testing is always hard, and the very first thing that's hard is ignition. And sure enough, our fuel naturally doesn't, it's not explosive, so is inherently pretty damn safe. And one of those things is getting that ignition to go just right. And we saw that. Now, fortunately, we saw the third time around, we lit that engine, we lit that candle, so to speak, and just absolutely amazing. And even though I was just over a half a mile away with Seth and the mission control, actually it was the remote viewing RV, because mission control was actually technically in the room right over here in the hangar at hangar 6. Some people on YouTube thought it was in somebody's basement, but no, it was here in the hangar. So it was incredible. And we had really, it was a very short test, and the whole point of it was to test ignition, to get some basic data on the flow rates of our propellants and stability. And we saw it was just generally a very good test. It was the ignition worked as expected. We were really conservative about how we did the ignition, and the flow stability looked really solid, or actually, I guess, kind of fluid. And
laminar.
Yeah, I'll be here all night. So it just went really well. And if you haven't yet, go to our YouTube channel, check out the video on that third test, and you can see the excitement on a bunch of us and how it all went through. Because I'm literally watching through binoculars there, and a much better view than you could see. You could see them.
All right, Sascha, let's show everybody.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Let's roll it. Let's roll it.
bluShift presents.
Here we go. So what's missing there is the sound, but you get the visual. Does somebody want to do the sound effect for it? And there you can see it shuts down pretty daggone quickly, which is really nice.
So Sascha, you mentioned stable flow, and this is a kind of a known issue with hybrid rocketry in general, and something that's kind of kept it in the hobby space and out of the commercial space for a long time. Although that's changing now, and we're proud to be kind of one of the leaders on that front. But what was it like just going to an engine that was, 4 times the diameter, 10 times the thrust of what launched Stardust in January of last year?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what this crowd equity funding campaign has gotten us to. It's allowed us to scale this up and to go to a full commercial level size engine. And as with anything, it's more work than you thought it was going to be, right? And we knew it was going to be a lot of work. We, the team put so much engineering, not only into the engine, not only into the test systems, but like the safety. Much of the processes that were developed were really in anticipation of the same safety procedures we'll have to go ahead with the FAA for actual launch. But there was so much that was entailed. And then, the fundamental thing about this engine now, it's literally an engine you can't lift up with your hands. And you need machinery, you need a forklift. And, I think those logistics get lost in, going from the size rocket that we went from Stardust to what we're working on right now. Everything has to be done with machines to get it in place and prepped and prepared. Now, of course, we're working with a really heavy test version. So the flight worthy version will be much later, but it's been incredible. And, the flow stability, the truth is any rocket engine, I'm going to guess, has its challenges of getting good ignition, stability, and burn, and getting the right ratio of oxidizer to fuel. And that's really the same things that we have. The extra challenge is that we've always had to start from zero in the sense that we're working with a fuel that nobody else has worked with before. So we're having to develop an engine that works specifically around this fuel, and that we can dial in the right mixture, we can dial in the right injection of the oxidizer, that we can ignite it just the right timing. And that's exactly the process we're going through now, once again, with our full-size engine, figuring out ignition, figuring out stable combustion, and getting that performance dialed in just right so we can eke out the absolute highest performance or seconds of impulse as possible. So it's incredibly thrilling.
And to that end, Test Stand 2.0 here, it's got the most sophisticated suite of sensors that we've ever put on an engine. Can you just talk a little about the kind of data that we'll be collecting?
Yeah, this is actually, I think this is technically it's Test Stand number 5 or 6 or something. But yeah, the amount of sensors collecting data and the controls here is an order of magnitude higher than we've ever done before, if not 2 orders of magnitude. And at least a good subset of those are just the surrounding safety systems, because we're doing something so much energetically more powerful, and we're dialing stuff in. We need to make sure everything is as safe as possible, not only for people nearby, but when we're doing actual engine test. So it's really been impressive what these guys have done, and we're doing we're measuring pressure, flow rates. Of course, there's tons of load cells to measure thrust in all directions, and we're sampling incredibly fast data rates. The videos, you hear a picture is worth 1,000 words or 100 words. Well, a video is worth like 10,000 words. The amount of video collection we do during every test, and then looking frame by frame what was going on with each burn. Something else that we're going to be enhancing down the road too is adding actually more video footage that allows us to do faster frame rates, see through the infrared spectrum, so we can start seeing the Mach diamond again that we used to in our old tests. Just it's incredible the amount of complexity and sophistication our team has put together, so we really can hone in and dial this engine in. And I think it speaks to the quality of our team now, the engineering team, and how sophisticated they really are and how capable they are. They can go from lifting a forklift to welding to machining to designing things in CAD and FEA to starting the engine. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is. So almost immediately once we finished this test, we were all like, okay, when are we testing again? Let's light this candle again. And so the first step, right, is to basically pull the engine apart and get a really in-depth analysis of how the burn went beyond just the sensors, right? We're inspecting a lot of the components in the machine there. Can you walk us through that process and our findings so far?
Yeah, so first and foremost, this, I guess that's the other part of this test is we're gonna make sure it stays together and everything held. All, quite literally the O-rings are doing what they're supposed to be doing and everything else. So, when we ran this test, we actually ran it at 60% power approximately. So it wasn't even full, let alone not a full duration burn, even though we had a full fuel core or fuel grain in there. It was run at 6% power. So that was really to make sure everything is working just the way it should be. There isn't any destruction to any of the important elements. So the guys have pretty well dissected the engine here in the shop on the other side of the hangar, and everything looks pretty solid, looks pretty good. My expectation is that the earliest we will be doing our next test is about 2 weeks from now. So maybe in around the, I think, 25th to 28th timeframe is when I expect we'll do another attempt at test. We'll see how things go. They're also buttoning up some more safety procedures, and I would expect that this next test will be longer in duration, and there's actually a good chance we'll go for a full thrust burn too. So we'll really see those mock diamonds form at the end, which is, of course, not the only reason for seeing them, a rocket engine light, but it's certainly a fun reason to see it.
Absolutely beautiful to see that. Yeah. All right. So watch this space, stay tuned, and we'll post on all channels the moment we have a date, and you won't want to miss this next test.
Yeah.
Because if that first test was any indicator of what's to come, this is just going to get better and better.
And we will continue to live stream it. Seth and Todd will be doing that. I'll be there, and we'll give you guys updates. And I think that's one of the things that makes us a bit different. We are sharing what we're doing with everybody in a pretty transparent way, both our failures and our successes. And, it's kind of part of who we are, sort of a sincere group of folks working hard to get this done. And I think it comes through, hopefully, not only in these videos and our team here, but also hopefully some videos will be coming forth, talking more and more with team members here. But you can see how challenging rocket science really is, but also how daggone exciting it is too. It's really, it's such a visceral feeling seeing an engine test. And I hope that many of our investors who have invested in bluShift today at I think it's a $10,000 level and above, get to get the tour of the test site, and get, most importantly, to watch an engine test. Because man, it's going to be better and better every time.
Absolutely. And just pivoting a little bit to our next big announcement, and I've seen some questions kind of popping up in the chat. We had some ahead of time as well. So we're going to talk about this.
Sure.
We announced that we have selected a launch site for Starless Rogue Beta.
Yes.
And for flights after that, it's open.
That's right. Yeah. So we have decided to sort of disassociate figuring out the launch site here in Maine and finalizing that and the whole procedure that we have to go through with not only the community, but with the FAA from, look, we just got to get to a qualifying flight for the NASA Flight Opportunities Program so we can start booking paying customers. And this first flight we anticipate will be a paid flight, our first, all the way to space commercial flight. So that's why we decided to go with Kennedy Space Center. This is, they have a brand new launch pad down there. I'm not sure if the concrete's still solidifying, but I think it's, it's relatively new in the last year or so. And they've reached out to us at the beginning of last year, just after we had our launch of Stardust, to see if we would consider launching from there. At the time, I thought, no, we'll use Kennedy once we kind of expand our orbits and where we're launching to, but our focus is on Maine. Our focus still is on Maine. But the first thing we got to do is get qualified with the NASA Flight Opportunities Program so that our suborbital rocket, Starless Rogue, can be a possible launch vehicle for any academic or civil researcher who's going to get the $350,000 to $550,000 to give to us to launch a payload to space. And we expect between 3 or 4 of these payloads per launch. So this is a really important thing for us to hit. And our whole goal is to get this done by the end of the year, have a qualifying launch so that when these researchers submit their proposal to NASA in the first quarter of the following year, bluShift is one of the options they can put on there. And they'll have a quote from us and can say, we're choosing bluShift for our flight provider because we not only want somebody who takes us to space and ultimately will get us there and keep us into a zero-G space environment for twice as long as the competition, but is also using a cleaner launch vehicle than the competition. So that's a big thing. So after that, now in parallel, but again, disassociated, the whole plans are to find a launch site here, both suborbitally and orbitally in Maine, maybe off the coast. We're also looking for options launching suborbitally, possibly in the northern reaches of Maine as well.
Yeah, and inland would only be suborbital. For orbital, it would still have to be coastal. But basically, this is just about getting to a point where we're generating revenue as soon as possible, and we fully intend to come on back just as soon as we can. Yeah. In fact, we're in some really interesting conversations with some communities right now here in Maine. So yeah, really excited about it.
Sascha, just real quick on some of the questions popping up in here. One person's just making more of a comment. It seems that it would be a lot more expensive to go to Florida each time. That's one of the advantages of staying.
Yes.
So you can kind of talk about that part. Hey.
And also there's a...
Let me help Aaron through. Hold on a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Help Aaron out.
Aaron, don't feel bad. Come on through. Come on, the door. Coming in the door right here. This is
Aaron, one of our engineers there.
This is Aaron, who's done the bulk of our wiring and our test stand. Didn't lock the room to the door to the hangar. But everybody say hello to Aaron. Comes to us from Boeing. Yeah. Another great number. Yeah, they say howdy back to you.
Thanks, guys.
So Sascha, they were just saying how you can just kind of talk about one of the main reasons of coming back to Maine is the expense of continually launching from Florida.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, so the point is, at this point, it's not, what's not important for us is the initial cost. I mean, it's important to a certain degree how much it costs for us this very first time. The first time we need to get it done. We need to become commercially viable as soon as possible. It really increases our value as a company. And yes, it'll cost more in terms of logistics to get down there, to implement it, than an ongoing basis for doing launches. But the important thing is commercial viability, and then let's get the cost down by launching off the coast of Maine and at a launch site that's really owned and run by bluShift.
Okay, and then one more follow-up on that, as we say goodbye to Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
What else is in between the first qualification and launching from Maine? So you qualify at the end of this year, then what would happen to bring you back to Maine?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, finding the right community where we can work and bring not only what I hope to be the jobs for launch ops, but also the manufacturing jobs within bluShift. We've done a new estimate on what we think we will be ultimately, what we plan to be growing to. And our expectations will grow between 150 and 250 people to ultimately support our full launch cadences of over north of 30 launches per year. Albeit, sure, down the road, we want to actually be expanding our launch capability and cadence and frequency to other orbits, such as Kennedy Space Center. So it might be sort of this nice symmetry where we start off first in Kennedy, and then later on, we bring it back in down the road. So, we're really excited that wherever we ultimately choose, we can bring these manufacturing jobs. We really want to bring in the launch site, the launch capabilities, and the manufacturing, tuck it in very close. It really helps us operationally, where we literally bring the rocket back on shore when we recoup it from the ocean, and we can refurb it and get it right back on the water. It really improves our ability to quickly get the assets back on the water, launch it again, and not have to go 1,000 miles down I-95, or let alone an island off of Alaska, or off to California. All beautiful places, but we want to keep this tight and keep the costs as low as possible.
Here. And
the other big thing is obviously FAA, right? Yep. So we have to go through an environmental impact study, which is very thorough, very expensive, and I'm sure many people know about that. And that's going to take many months. And then and then the FAA has to go through the whole process. And this process we go through with the FAA, and we've been in communications with them for some time now, is sort of qualifying not only our launch vehicle, but also the launch site and our ops to ensure the safety of the public. And that's really the primary concern for the FAA, is to ensure safety of the public.
Great. I see one more question before we move on away from Kennedy. Was someone was wondering, in that launch that you plan to do, that first one, will you have a payload on that rocket?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Max IQ is just very nearly, I think, booked up their complete payload capacity that they've contracted for us, which is a couple of 3U enclosures worth of science kits from kids around the world. So that will certainly be on there, and we are actively working to reach out to other civil and academic institutions to be on our inaugural flight, including the University of Southern Maine and University of Maine right here at the home in Maine. But our business development guy, Ben, is working with other institutions across the country to see if we can get them on our inaugural flight as well.
Excellent. Thank you for all of these questions, and we'll circle back to some other ones, because there's some really good questions here that I'm seeing. But let's just talk equity crowdfunding, Wefunder. We believe this was the first raise of its kind for a rocket company to be reaching out to non-accredited investors in this way through a platform. It's gone really well, and we're getting to the point where it's time to start thinking about wrapping up.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we wouldn't be where we are today without you guys, without our investors. And it's been an amazing process. It actually wasn't how January of last year, February last year, our plans were to go sort of down the more traditional routes. And I've got to say it's been both exhilarating, enabling, democratizing, to allow people of all ilks to be able to invest in us, of all monetary means, and also all types from across the country, across the world. And I didn't think of it this way, but the crowd equity funding experience has also, I think, been thrilling for our team. It's sort of been energizing, and to have that support base there of literally 1,000 investors now who are cheering their team on, and the team feels it. We know it, and that I think that's at least part of our bio-derived propellant is our investment team. So, really fortunate. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have developed the largest rocket engine commercially developed using a bio-derived fuel than without our investors. We wouldn't be this close to figuring out where we're going to launch off the coast of Maine or within the Maine. We wouldn't be this close to, we wouldn't have secured our very first launch contracts if it wasn't for this Wefunder crowd equity funding campaign so quickly and so soon. So it's been incredibly liberating. It's been really neat to see that so many different folks get to be invested in our company and get a future stake in our company and what we're doing. And it's not just a chosen few. So we are going to wrap up a campaign here April 4th. This is the last day. We're very close to 1 million. Our goal for this campaign is 1.07 million. And I think we have a real shot at getting there by April 4th, just a few weeks from now. And so I encourage all of you who've invested in us, share this investment that you've done with bluShift, share it with others, share what we're doing, share what type of company we're with. If you believe in expanding humanity's outreach to space, but you believe in the health of our planet and believe in doing this in an Earth responsible way, share what you know about bluShift with others. We are doing things in a different way on multiple levels. The crowd equity funding is just one of those levels. So please do share that. It wraps up all April 4th. And I think my estimate is that will be the last time we'll be doing a crowd equity funding campaign as we shift into the next rounds of funding, the seed round and then a Series A round, all of this to propel us to launch. And the next round will be to fully enable us to fully build out Starless Rogue, get the FAA licensing underway, do the launch all the way to space, and get qualified with the NASA Flight Opportunities Program so that we can start booking payloads at their full value in 2023 and beyond. So I think it's a really exciting time, and none of this would be possible without our crowd equity funding people. And it's been incredibly liberating to be part of this experience.
Absolutely. And it added a whole dimension to the engine test that I was sitting there on the clock, thanks to these investors watching this engine test, that the engine was built with that money, the test stand was built with that money, that we are all in this together, because we've all invested too, and it really, and I don't tend to get that feeling that there's that there's people there in spirit, but this time I did. All right. Oh, he's back.
I just had a coughing fit. Never drink water while on the camera.
All been there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, people, when somebody's investing $100, they're literally helping to pay for, like, the camera allows you to see the live stream. You know, if they're investing $1,000, they're paying for helping us to pay for, like, a pretty expensive set of solenoid valves or two. They're helping us pay for, Siemens NX software so we can design all of this that we're doing. They're helping us pay for the lease of this place, the hangar, the solar powered electricity that's, get this array just outside the building. This is all this, and of course, let alone the bio-derived fuel and our oxidizer, and occasional hand warmers for the guys.
Yes.
So Sascha, real quick, a question here from Brad is will Wefunder investment transfer into preferred stock, regular stock, or something else?
That's a really good question. So first and foremost, the Wefunder is fundraising is through a safe note vehicle that converts. At the moment, we do a price round, which is probably going to be like the Series A round. And I am going to have to post to Wefunder exactly what type of stock that is, whether it's preferred or not. In my mind, I have the sense that it's preferred, but before I say something like that, I really want to make sure I'm absolutely correct. By the way, I'm also one of the safe note holders, as many of the folks on the team are as well. So let me get back to that. Let me get that information, and I will post it to our Wefunder update section. Seth or Todd, if you don't mind taking that note so we don't forget to post that, please.
That's all the questions right now. You can continue on, Seth.
Thanks. I think I saw a question about. Oh, okay. So we should mention everyone who invests between the Stardust anniversary, January 31st of this year, and when we reach $1 million, they get entered into a raffle, and 5 winners get a bluShift the movie poster signed by Sascha. So just a fun little thing there. And I also saw a question about the $100,000 in non-dilutive funding from MTI. Just saw
Yes.
that. So what can we say about that at the moment?
Yeah. So we should be hitting $1 million here, and it was originally tagged that $100,000 of non-dilutive funding was originally tagged to that 1 million raise. We have talked with MTI, and they have been, a really important and incredible supporter of, well, not only of technology in Maine and high tech companies, sort of an island unto themselves within the state of Maine, but of course of bluShift, us. And I apologize for my cough, by the way, not COVID. They have very generously gone ahead and seen how close we are to that 1 million goal, have given us that $100,000 of non-dilutive funding, which of course has been important for our development and of course the continued engine testing that we expect to do here very shortly.
All right. One other potential benefit to Maine investors is there's this seed capital tax credit program through the Finance Authority of Maine, and one of our investors who wanted to remain anonymous, but he just asked if we would pass on that the application for the tax credit went smoothly for at least one person there, and so they were approved and they're ready to start claiming that deduction.
Yeah, I think that's, I was speaking with folks who were considering, this credit funding investment with bluShift. And I think it's one of the things we have not done a wonderful job is letting people know this is, I'm not sure if other states in the United States do anything like this. Maybe there is. But the Finance Authority of Maine offers well, first and foremost, if you have any sort of tax consequences here in Maine, and I know the vast majority of people probably watching this don't, but if you do, whatever you invest in bluShift up to a certain limit, I think it's up to like $500,000, is up to 40% of that becomes a tax credit for your tax obligations here in the state of Maine. Now, the state of Maine, of course, wanting to encourage high-tech companies like our own to develop and grow other startups, does something even more aggressive for investment firms outside of the state. So literally, for investment firms outside of the state, whether they're investing through our crowdfunding campaign or future rounds, they actually get a check sent to them for 25% of that 40% tax credit. So instead of sort of tax credit, they actually get a check, and I think over 4 years you get that full 40%. I'm not sure of any other state, and maybe there's some out there, but I haven't heard of it yet, that actually almost provides a level of insurance to any organization outside the state or folks inside the state that, hey, if nothing else, you're going to get 40% of your investment back. And it seems like an incredible way to de-risk any sort of high risk, high reward venture, as many entrepreneurial ventures such as our own is about. Shooting to space, commercializing new space is an incredibly exciting, incredibly big upside where there's a lot to get there in terms of R&D. And Maine has done an incredible job at the Finance Authority at de-risking that at a level that I think is really unseen. We actually, as a company, had to go through a whole process to get qualified for that, and we are qualified. So consider that when you're investing in bluShift.
All right. Well, that takes us through, I think, most of our critical points here. And so I would love to hand things over to Todd. He's going to MC a little bit and just open up the floor.
Yeah, so we'll just go real quick and back to the investing a little bit there. There's someone on YouTube that was saying that it was asking basically that $1 million in aerospace is not much. So they're kind of comparing you to the bigger companies that are launching much bigger payloads into space. So kind of talk about how that niche that your company is going to fill and why that's such a good business strategy.
Yeah, so $1 million, they're absolutely right. $1 million in an aerospace company is not much. And you look at a lot of the West Coast aerospace companies and the amount of money they need to raise to do similar activities, let alone, many of the folks on the West Coast have not even gotten to any sort of launch of any sort with any paying customers. We have a year ago, and here we are at an engine that's 4 times as powerful as that's used on Rocket Lab's rocket. So I think what it really speaks to is it's not only the concept of operations allows us to do less expensively, not only our fuel that lets us do this less expensively, because one, it actually technically costs less than RP1, which is the most common rocket fuel and sort of a derived version of kerosene, highly processed. But because of our non-toxicity and the safety, it really makes the logistics a lot less expensive. The hybrid rocket technology, while it has a little bit of a performance hit, is a lot simpler to develop, a lot less expensive to produce. And we have fundamentally half the plumbing that a traditional rocket has. In our current configuration, we don't have this thing called a turbo pump, which is incredibly expensive. And if you're putting a turbo pump in a small rocket, suddenly this one, I shouldn't say small device, but this one item is a very big part of your overall cost of construction, manufacturing this one rocket. So this and many other things, our MAREVL engine technology, which we developed under the NASA grant, allows us to be incredibly cost effective from the standpoint of R&D, testing, launch logistics, actually launching, environmental impact, repeatability, reusability, and it is the fundamental reason why bluShift can actually launch payloads as small as 100 kilograms and be profitable. That's why we can get there. Whereas other companies you'll see have to have much, much larger payloads to really achieve any sort of profitability or ROI on their operations. So I think that is part of our magic. Now, is it 1 million that's going to get us there ultimately all the way to red dwarf or all the way to orbital? No. We're looking between 54 and 60 million ultimately over the course of several years through a number of rounds to get us all the way there. But 6.5 million is what we need to raise to get to commercial viability with a first commercial launch of our suborbital rocket, Starless Rogue, within the next year. And that's what the next big round is. And really this 1 million, what this has gotten us to is developing a full-size MAREVL engine. And now we're in the full throes of doing that testing to tune that engine so we can make a lightweight version to then integrate into Starless Rogue to be launched. Now remember, a year ago, we launched Stardust. 2 years ago, we had just finished up really tuning that prior version, that engine, tuning the engine, going through the iteration of ignition, stability, performance. And within 9 months, we had booked customers. We had figured out our location for launch. We had gotten permission from the FAA to fly. We had built our launch trailer, and we launched, albeit in the daggone dead of winter. Now, we're in a similar, somebody's once referred to our timeline as psychotic. We're on a similar crazy timeline, but I know that our team can do it, and we've done it before. And in many ways, what we're doing, what we're planning to do with Starless Rogue is really a super beefed up version of what we did in Stardust. And so I have all the confidence that we can get to space with Starless Rogue within the year.
That's great. So one more question on the kind of on the fuel and the business side of it, though. Mark was asking, where you're getting your biofuels, and do you need a separate company to be able to generate the biofuels, or can you provide that on your own?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of the proprietary nature of what we're doing. So obviously I can't give a whole lot of details around there. I can just say that the raw ingredients can be had from multiple sources, multiple suppliers. There is I have been toying around as sort of a long-term goal of trying to vertically integrate not only us processing the fuel and putting it into our fuel grain, but also sort of the raw agricultural level all the way up to developing it and making that it's sort of like a vertical business that just feeds our business. But we have a lot of flexibility in where we can get the raw materials from. And as you've probably heard me say, we can get it from, ultimately it can be manufactured from farms across not only America, but the whole world, which we're really excited by. There was a second part of that question. I think I didn't answer.
Yeah, they were just kind of wondering on the business side of it. Does bluShift make their own fuel? Are they going to need a separate company to be able to develop the precise fuel, or is that all within house? Is basically what they're asking.
Yeah, maybe to all. I mean, right now we do it all in house, but there's some considerations of working with a secondary outfit. Yep. Without getting into details.
Okay. Yeah. And then just real quick, the other question was, how quickly can you reuse the rockets after launch?
I mean, our expectation is within weeks it can be refurbed and reused. I think once we get more and more familiarity with the things that need to be looked at, inspected, and what the cadence for those inspections need to be, we'll know, like, okay, we always need to flip out these valves. We always need to, the igniter needs to be switched out, or this O-ring needs to be changed out every 3 flights. We'll start knowing more and more. So my expectation is the timeline between bringing the Starless Rogue or the first stage of Red Dwarf back home and refurbing will go from a few months down to a few weeks, down to, I would guess, within like 2 weeks, we could probably have the engine refurbed and ready for flight once again. I'm going a little bit from memory here, but I think, our expectation, even with ultimately just above 30 flights per year, many years down the road, we'll be producing and refurbing north of 500 engines a year. So we'll really have this process down of production, and also the scale in terms of, well, frankly, reducing our manufacturing costs to really tighten up, frankly, our profit margins for each launch.
Well, thank you. I think we've pretty much gone through the questions. If anyone has any more, please put them on the in the chat, and we will pass them on to Sascha here. So, but we're all just very excited about this next test to be happening. So
yeah, stay tuned. Share this with as many people as you possibly can. Let them know what this little outfit in Maine is doing, what we've been up to, technically since 2014. And there's, so much engineering effort has gone, and only in the last year and a half have we been able to really share this with you, the public, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to be transparent with the good, bad, and the ugly. Hopefully, my hope is that this is not only inspiring investors and maybe folks like you to reinvest in bluShift further, but I'm also hoping that it'll inspire younger folks to consider going into not only the sciences, but of course the space sciences, to allow your curiosity to go beyond. And no matter where you are, that you can pursue careers such as the ones here at bluShift in the aerospace industry. So thank you all very much, and thank you for your time. We're really excited. Stay tuned. We will get this out on the wire on when the next test will be exactly. Right, Seth? Right, Todd?
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would guess that in the as we wrap up the campaign, we're going to bring back our investor hotline. So I will literally be on your speed dial. If you put our investor hotline into your speed dial, then I could be. And if I can't answer the question, then Sascha will answer the question. Yeah, absolutely. I saw one.
Stanley asked a good question. I just saw pop up here. It says, how much is the minimum request investment required?
Yeah.
And that's the really cool thing, is that on the Wefunder, so wefunder.com, you look up bluShift, it's $100.
Yeah.
So it's very accessible to anybody. I'm sure there's some sort of comparison to how many cups of coffee that is. For me, that's about 2 days worth of coffee. But maybe that's a month or two of coffee for other folks. But that's the level you can get in with at Wefunder and invest in bluShift using the Safe Note vehicle.
And Sascha, that link was just put over in the chat. People can find that easily. There was also another question about volunteer or paid positions, and I put the link on the right too for the careers section of our website. They can find all the info there.
Cool, wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. I see you just put in $100 as an investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, and we are. I know David Hayrikian, our CTO. By the way, David is one of those unspoke heroes that you guys might have just caught him in that last video. He's the guy who's he's probably the most emotional of the engineers and squatting down. Incredibly capable individual, sort of unsung hero in terms of all the things he's done for this company and behind the scenes working with the team. Also an investor in bluShift, but he and the team are working hard at finishing up this inspection of the MAREVL engine. I expect within about a week we'll be able to nail down the precise day of the test. So stay tuned.
I thought I saw a question roll by a while back. Oh, what? Okay, let's take that one next.
I missed the question. I apologize.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, from-
Let me pull up my chat real quick. But early on, someone asked, why is it so important for orbital launch to be over the ocean?
Great point. The Chinese would probably have something to argue with this, but I mean, the main incentive is to not go over people and property. So in the initial part of when a rocket is launching, that's when you have you really have the higher probability of things not going well. And even though we have a flight termination system, if it's going to come down, you want it to come down where there's not going to be anybody. And so so the ocean is preferred way to launch it orbitally. It doesn't mean that you can't do it in other circumstances. It's all about analysis. It's all about figuring out failure modes and what is the probability that somebody could possibly hurt. And the FAA has very clear guidelines. Actually, maybe clear isn't the word, but they have guidelines on what the risks need to be, or the risks have to be what your threshold is. So for that reason, the ocean makes it far easier. I did see everything. Other questions pop up, but I actually wasn't able to pay attention to what they were.
I think well, there was a couple that I just kind of answered on the side directly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Individual questions. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Here's a fun one, Sascha.
On the fundraising, but we are planning to scale up both the interns, internship, and the job opportunities. My hope is that we will be more than doubling the team over the next year as we get more funding, as we go for this next round. That will really allow us to scale up our team all the way. I'd say all the way, but all the way to the point where we can launch suborbitally and reach commercial viability.
Yeah, and that touches on another thing that makes bluShift so remarkable. Is that between employees, interns, contractors, consultants, and just like cool people that show up to help out, we maybe have what, 30-ish regulars that are pitching
that much
bluShift.
You probably don't
less.
I always couldn't neck my head. I always think of like restaurant 15 or 16 people, but we've had so many folks that are helping out in one shape or form or another. You're
right.
Probably right.
It's a really small group of people compared to a lot of these other new space startups that are, probably like, approaching 10 times that just right out of the gate before they even, in some cases, before they even have a launch vehicle.
Yeah, I think it speaks to sort of the efficiency and I always say with a little bit of a smile, Yankee ingenuity that we have here in Maine to get things done, and the grit that's required to get things done, especially in this industry.
Speaking of Yankee ingenuity and grit, this is a question that I particularly like from Josh Robinson. Would you ever consider a platform launch in the water?
We most certainly would and are. Yeah.
It's on the drawing board. Yeah.
Yep. That is definitely a very examined possibility. Yep.
We've had some whiteboards.
And actually, it's been that way for some time. And it's in the last 3 to 4 months, it's been very much back on the table.
Well, we can leave things open for just a couple minutes, see if any more questions come in.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I welcome questions of all types. What the guys do, how we do things here, what our expectations are for the future, anything.
So Sascha, while we're waiting too, why don't you just talk a little bit about your team and like what comes to some of the background that they have in their career.
Well, you just got to see Aaron, who moved here from Pennsylvania, previously worked for Boeing. And, we have folks from Pratt & Whitney with nearly a decade of experience there as aerospace engineers. David Hirikian, our CTO, comes to us with about a decade's worth of experience of manufacturing engineering, really kind of how do you develop products, and then how do you get into manufacture? How do you get them to scale and really lower the cost for manufacturing, which is what ultimately this is, half of our, really the bulk of our business is going to be about, in addition to, the customer service and sales side of things of interacting with our customers. And then, of course, our business development person, Ben Farmer, and, we have folks who've done loads of FEA analysis and failure analysis on flight-worthy components for high-speed jets. We have folks that are kind of been educated in the not only aviation tech industry, but aviation tech industry for drones. We have interns with who are pursuing ME degrees, now I'm like swathily forgetting all the different folks that are helping out as a team. We have, you guys that comes for us from a diverse amount of experiences. Huh?
Yeah.
I think Jen's chimed in us a few things.
Jen's got to give me Doug and Aaron, who, Doug comes to us from the UMA, from the drone, the aviation, unmanned vehicles training, and Doug was the one that I was mentioning before, came to us from Boeing. So we're really, we're a tight team. We're working very hard, as you saw leading up to our first test. These guys were all working weekends, coming in early in the morning, working late till night to see that that first test was kicked off. And it's really the caliber of people. And again, no import to the temperatures outside, right? This is no Boca Chica. This is no Florida. And for a lot of people, that's why they're not here. But for a lot of us, this is beautiful, and it's this is what grit is made of.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody complained. A couple people asked for more coffee than usual, but no
That's
one.
for sure. We kept the flow line. Actually, Jen's been really critical into keeping the flow line of caffeine.
Critical part of our logistics.
Actually, a shout out to Wicked Joe's Coffee and their Bella Maria. That is good, high octane, tasty coffee.
So Sascha, one more question. You kind of touched on it earlier, but maybe Josh wasn't on it earlier. But they're wanting to know if the payload would include low Earth orbit satellites for internet.
Yes, yeah. So for Red Dwarf, our launch vehicle, orbital launch vehicle, we our core on. So the vision for bluShift is not to launch constellations of these nanosatellites to orbit. That's, my best metaphor is like a cable company, when they go into a town, they've got to lay the network. Probably it's not their own trucks are rolling in there. It's probably often like contractors come in and just roll out the network. But then they have their own maintenance vehicles and cable trucks that go up there to replace individual amplifiers up in the lines or getting your cable modem up and running. That's what bluShift is. We're not trying to be a SpaceX or a Firefly. The guys are taking up giant loads at a time and deploying those constellations. 3 to 5 years from now, when we actually launch our orbital vehicle, Red Dwarf, those constellations are being put up, whether it's a OneWeb or a Link or like a Spire. These guys are going to be up there. They're going to be needing to replace their assets up there because these low Earth orbit satellites, their orbit degrades, they burn up in the atmosphere, and they need to place them up there. And of course, every once in a while, they're going to fail. They're not going to want to put up a Falcon or a Falcon Heavy to replace one tiny, dinky satellite, albeit probably not this small. They're going to want something like sort of the maintenance launch vehicle that is Red Dwarf from bluShift. We're like, I got to put 1 or 2 assets back up pronto. It's sort of the FedEx, I need it today. I need it tomorrow. I need it yesterday because this guy's coming down soon. I need to make sure my service is continuing. And yeah, they're going to pay a premium for it. We're not trying to become, it's not like, it's not like your Walmart or Costco, bulk purchase services. It is a dedicated service, a premium service that customers are going to need to keep their constellations up and running, let alone all the other customers that are looking to launch 1, 2, 3, 4 nanosatellites at a time. So I hope that answered the question, or maybe did more than I should have, more valuable than expected.
I think that's perfect, and
I think it wraps things up.
Yeah.
So,
all right, folks.
So Sascha, thanks for your time, and everyone appreciated answering all the questions, and
Yeah, I
Look
really
forward to
appreciate
doing
the
this again
questions. Keep
sometime.
them flowing. And you know, you can also ask questions on the Wefunder campaign on the updates. I try to, one of us will usually notice that there's a new question and we'll try to answer it within a day, hopefully sooner. So feel free to put it out there. The benefit of putting on the Wefunder campaign updates, even if you're not a current investor, is everybody benefits from my answers. So, and that's the idea, is to get whatever answers I have out to everybody, the general public, as well as investors themselves. So keep them flowing. Keep watching, watch our live stream cast, share with other people, see what this gritty company in Maine is doing to really launch sustainable aerospace. Thank you guys all very much, and looking forward to sharing what happens here in the next few weeks and to reaching that $1 million threshold campaign goal with our Wefunder campaign. Share it with as many folks as you can and share what we're up to, please, with here at bluShift Aerospace. Thank you very much.